United stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge, and this is your latest Manchester United transfer news as we focus on exits. Mason Greenwood is very close to leaving Manchester United. Juventus apparently leading the race, but there is some clarity to be mentioned in relation to that. Also, we've got an update around Xerxes, João Neves, Jadon Sancho, and also Jonathan David and Ligt. There's also a bit around a new coach that could be coming in to work alongside Erik ten Hag. But of course, I'm a little bit late because a little bit like getting rid of Man United players, getting our hotter meter loves it. He loves its place in the sun, funnily enough. The colder meter's been a right little sod, which is what has made me late, which is a little bit, you know, how ironic that the colder meter wouldn't work and was being very obstructive, which is pretty much like the players getting out of Man United. But here it is. Smash a like. Hotter meter for players coming in. Colder meter for players going out. We love this. It's a brand new edition. This is the community that is the best, obviously. But I'm very proud of this. I'm very, very proud of this. Big shout out to Matt, who's worked on it. That's our top 7 at the moment. We will go through it, of course. But I'm loving it. Absolutely loving it. Many of you mentioned about bringing this into the show. So well done to you. And we're very, 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 very glad to have it. So we've got a hotter meter for incoming, which measures the temperature on the likelihood of people going out the door, coming in the door. We've now got the colder meter on who is heading out the door. And Mason Greenwood is right at the top of that. 9 out of 10, 90% chance, of course. We'll talk about that. Before we get into that, just a little bit of topical stuff. We don't really want to talk about the manager stuff, but sometimes I told you so vibes are just too hard to resist. Roberto De Zerbi, the guy that some of the Ten Hag crowd was telling us was the guy to change Manchester United. Well, he's got that big job. Yeah, he ain't off to Barcelona. He ain't off to Madrid. He ain't even off to Munich. No, no, no. He's not waiting a year for Man City. He's off to the biggest club in the world. You've guessed it. Marseille. Yeah, Chris Waddle FC. Yeah, that's what I said all along. He is slightly overhyped. If he was so good, and there are so many jobs out there, why is he going to Marseille from Brighton? That's a step down. Brighton to Marseille is a step down for a guy that some of the Ten Hag outers were telling us is a step up. I mean, what was it on Monday or Tuesday? We had this crappy little clip going out from João Pedro telling us what an amazing coach De Zerbi was. And some people were handing him out a 5-year deal at Man United. God, some of these people just need to just take a breath, look at what they've been saying, and realise they've got it wrong. You got it wrong. There are people out there that would have De Zerbi as Man United manager over Ten Hag. At some point, you've just got to accept you're wrong. Anyway, let's get on with it. I'm loving the colder meter. It's actually making me feel cold. Okay. How does the colder meter work? Well, you should know it's the opposite of the hotter meter. It's like a cold tap and a hot tap. The hot tap is the hotter meter. The cold tap is the colder meter. So we'll be updating this on a regular basis, ranking the 7 players that we think are most likely to leave Manchester United, but also giving it a score as well. If it's a 5, probably a 50-50 chance. If it's a 9 like Greenwood, obviously 9 out of 10, 90%, however you want to do it, that's how it's going to work. So look, breaking news, new news, topical news is what we're going to discuss, and we'll go through some of these players that are heading out the door as well. There's a little bit, I mean, there's a couple of players that aren't on there that I know some people want to talk about, so we can happily do that. But Mason Greenwood, the story goes that Manchester United and Juventus are working on a package of £40 million for Mason Greenwood. This is sort of come out over lunchtime. I think the Mail have reported it. Italian reports have put it out there as well. A £40 million package for Mason Greenwood. Look, I think from Man United's point of view, this is a deal that we've got to do. It's pure profit. I don't think that's £40 million outright, by the way. I think, look, we've got to be real if we're going to talk about this. And it won't be £40 million outright. There'll be add-ons and all sorts of stuff going on there. Obviously, he's only got 1 or 2 years left on his contract, but he's had a good season. And look, I've been looking around at some of the comments. A lot of people have said about Mason Greenwood that if when he went on loan last summer, in a year's time, you didn't know necessarily whether he was going to be worth 5 million. Like, you didn't know whether it was going to be 2 years out of football or not. So, and whether that would be problematic. So I think that realistically, if we can get £40 million package, bit of a sell-on fee if he goes after Juventus, then it's a good deal. But I don't want to be put a downer on this, but we're hearing from Italy that Juventus need to sell to buy. So as much as nobody wants to, I don't think Mason Greenwood himself wants to be at the end of the month thinking, but I got to go back training at Carrington. I mean, that presents massive problems for a team that's meant to be moving on and a player that wants to move on. So can we get this deal done in the next 2 weeks so that when pre-season starts, he's pre-season training with his new club? That's the challenge. And I don't know whether Juventus are going to have the money to get that sorted quickly. They may have to sell to buy, and obviously selling players takes time. So as much as Juventus are leading the race, Napoli are also in the race. Atletico Madrid have never left the race. There is other clubs there. But of course, I think it's going to be who's got the cold, hard readies there to do it. You know, who's got the cash to do it, because he is going to leave. Nothing's going to change that. But it's about how quickly that will happen. So Mason Greenwood, certainly things are happening, and that's the most progressive deal that's happening at the moment. Grace says, what about a swap deal with Locatelli? I don't really see it. Aidan says, what about the bitter meter? Yeah, they might not be bitter that they're leaving. Goldio says, do you think there is any chance Ten Hag has hung out to dry? Not enough quality coming in and keeping too many of the deadwood. This for me is a worry. Goldio, I mean, I don't want to talk about the manager, but that's conspiracy theories that we don't need to deal with. What is without doubt is that Ineos took on a major strategic review where they looked at every angle, every issue, every area, spoke to every person, and ultimately their review is that Ten Hag is the guy they want to work with for the next 3 years to make Man United great again. That's the Ineos line. There is no hidden, let's just keep him for a little bit to bring Gareth Southgate in. That will cost them a lot of money. That will cost them a lot of credibility. That will set them back. Ineos are going into this 100% eyes open, honest, let's work with Erik Ten Hag and make this successful. He could get the sack in a year's time. He could get the sack in 2 years' time if it doesn't go well. But I don't buy into the conspiracy because they're about to hand him a new contract on very good money. So compensation, etc. They've done the review. They've picked him. I just think what it is we are still very fresh after this decision. And you know, the bitter people want to try and find something to cling on to. I mean, remember when Ineos bought the club and we were still for a couple of months getting stories about Qatar because people were still hoping that, you know, something would happen. We need to move on. We need to move on. So Greenwood leads the race on that one. In relation to other outgoings, I think Jadon Sancho has to come in at second with an 8 out of 10. The problematic thing with Jadon Sancho is, and look, let me know if you think anybody supersedes this is my top 7 players going. Obviously, Martial and Varane have already gone. Brandon Williams is already gone. So, you know, I was tempted to put Ahmad on there. I was. I think Pellistri probably is a player that features, but probably doesn't get enough attention. I think maybe he is there. I've sort of gone for a mix of obvious and, you know, high profile. I think Jadon Sancho will go in some way, shape or form. And I'd say there's an 80% chance of that. It could well be that it ends up being a loan deal, but I think Jadon Sancho has to go. Obviously, sticking with Erik Ten Hag is a big up yours to Jadon Sancho, unless he has a complete and utter personality transplant around what went on where he didn't play for 3 months and comes back with his tails between his legs, apologising to absolutely everybody and working his arse off. I don't see a way back for Jadon Sancho, so surely he's got to go somewhere. Hi Mark, been a member for a while now, was just wondering if and how I become a channel moderator. Keeping it up, Mark, says King Callan. The moderators put people forward for that, mate. It's nothing to do with me because they're interacting with you all the time. Red Ninja, welcome to Members Club. Thank you very much. Why is Eriksen leaving? Hadn't heard anything. Says Impossible Movies. Have you had your head buried up your arse? Of course Eriksen's on the chopping block. We're going to talk about him in a minute. Would you rather sell Maguire or Lindelof? Says Stephen. Well, I will talk about that when we come to that. Look, easy work here. Easy work. Manchester United, Sancho will go. Donny van der Beek, very, very quickly. Don't want to spend any time on it. 8 out of 10 chance that he will go. He's still under contract. He's not a loanee. He's not out of contract. He's not a get-out-of-the-door player. He will be got rid of. We forget that we've got him. He's had lots of chances. He's had lots of loans. It's really, really sad. I like Donny van der Beek. It hasn't worked out. Answers on a postcard why it hasn't, but he will go. Christian Eriksen. 7 out of 10 chance that he will go. Pretty cold, 70%. Yeah, Christian Eriksen could stay at Manchester United, but I think Christian Eriksen will go more because of his own morals than anything else. I think Erik ten Hag and Man United wouldn't mind having Christian Eriksen around. He is a fantastic professional. He is a good person to have around. You know, people like Rasmus, obviously being Danish, massively look up to him. He's well liked around the football club. I wouldn't say he's Juan Mata, but it's very similar to Mata. He's very well liked. He's a model professional and absolutely is not a player that United or Ten Hag are going to be, let's get him out the club. The problem for Eriksen is he is a player that wants to play football, and his pathway to the first team is ridiculously limited with Mainu Mounts ahead of him. So he will want to play football. He's on £140,000 a week. He's got 1 year left on his contract. In some way, shape or form, I think he leaves. Whether somebody will come in and give us any money for him is one thing. If not, I think he goes on a loan deal. I don't see Eriksen staying at Manchester United. I might be wrong, but I put him in as a 7. Casemiro, a 6 out of 10 chance, 60% chance. Getting pretty cold for Casemiro. Look, logically, I think you could put him a lot higher. I really, really do. But reality is, very high wage. Saudi Arabia is the only place for him to go. He can't go anywhere else. Does he want to go there? Part of me thinks, fantasy, that Casemiro comes back from a summer off and is the Casemiro he was 2 years ago. I absolutely refuse to believe that it's just his legs have gone. I think something else went. I still think you can't go from being one of the best players in the world in that position to being one of the worst in the Premier League. I mean, some of the stuff he was doing at the end of the season just defies logic, you know, not pushing up against Crystal Palace. So maybe he stays, maybe he's rejuvenated, but I think Casemiro probably does go, and I think Saudi Arabia is probably going to be where he's going to have to go. So I wouldn't say it's definite, but I'd say 6. And then you've got 2 on a 5. And look, admittedly, you could put Lindelof here. There is probably a couple of other players you could put here. I think Pellistri is one. I know some people are saying, what about Bruno? What about Rashford? We can potentially bring them in. But I think that with Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Harry Maguire, I would lump them into the same. They were bought in the same summer for very, very big money on very good wages. And have they flopped or have they not? I mean, technically they've flopped. For the price we paid, we've not got what we paid for. But they've not been terrible. They are 2 players who in certain systems play very, very well. England are going to miss Maguire, and Wan-Bissaka in a defensive right-back role is pretty good. So they're 2 players who are good players, who are overpriced, who aren't part of our future. And again, like Eriksen, I think this comes down to the ambition of the individual. If you are Aaron Wan-Bissaka, do you want to hang around Man United in a team that's not evolving into a team that suits you, or do you want to go and play first-team football? And if you're Harry Maguire, you've just missed out on the Euros, a tournament that you deserve to go to, but in the last 2 years in qualifying for the Euros, you haven't really played a lot of football for your club. The World Cup is in 2 years. Maybe it's delusional to think that Maguire would go to that World Cup, but if Gareth Southgate stays, he's got a good chance. If he wants to go to the World Cup, there is an abundance of young English centre-backs coming through. He will not be able to hold his place by being a 3rd or 4th choice centre-back at Manchester United when you've got the likes of Konza and Branthwaite who are going to be playing first-team football. So I think Harry Maguire may well come down to himself and what he wants to do. So if he wants to carry on playing for England, I think he needs to play first-team football. So I would put Harry Maguire and Aaron Wan-Bissaka as a 50-50 chance that they will leave, but I would expect both of those players to be, you know, putting themselves forward to go based upon what they want to do. Lindelof could fall into that as well, but that's my top 7 on the colder meter at the moment. You give me yours. Now, a few people are saying, what about, well, Stephen said, would you rather sell Maguire or Lindelof? I'd sell Maguire. I think he's got more interest in him, more value in him. The wage is more, so it helps us. And also, I think Lindelof suits 3rd or 4th choice centre-back more than Maguire. I don't think Maguire is good enough to start for Manchester United if we get the players in we want, but I also think he's too good to be a 3rd or 4th choice centre-back, whereas I think with Victor Lindelof, it suits him more to be that. So I would sell Maguire and keep Lindelof. Marcus Rashford, some people have said about him, look, I didn't go unnoticed to me that in the Mail article it said that there is a strained relationship between Ten Hag and Marcus Rashford. I mean, that could be complete nonsense, or there might be something in it. I mean, there will be a strained relationship between Anthony and Ten Hag because of what happened at the start of the season. There's definitely a strained relationship with Jadon Sancho. And obviously, Marcus Rashford going out in Belfast undermines the manager and the players. So that was probably a strain point. But I also think Erik Ten Hag has been ridiculously loyal to Marcus Rashford and therefore probably likes him. So I wouldn't put Marcus Rashford on the colder meter at all. Something would have to drastically change for me to do that, i.e., I think if a club made a play for him and who that club would be, then maybe he would feature on there. But at the moment, I just don't see it. What about Malacia? Any news of him going, says Dylan? He's got to get fit first, mate. He's got to get fit. Would you vote for Simon Jordan for Prime Minister? Absolutely not, Stephen. Off and on member since 200k. Should Amrabat stay, says Red Ninja. Well, I haven't put Amrabat on there because we don't own him. He's a loan player. So, you know, I don't know what happens with Amrabat. I think Ten Hag staying. Maybe he stays. Any players we can use in a swap deal, says Nick James. Ten Hag interview and Man United looks so tired. It's probably been recorded a few weeks ago as well. I get the whole Greenwood thing. That was from Nick James. Ricardo says, I get the whole Greenwood thing is a sensitive topic, but why can't he be successful at United, but he can be elsewhere? He is what we need, creative and finisher. Look, Ricardo, I don't want to keep going over this, but you've took the time to put a super chat in, so I'm not going to, you know, sweep it under the carpet. We never have. Thomas Begley, welcome to the Members Club. You're an absolute legend. Look, in relation to Mason Greenwood, I actually heard Rio Ferdinand asked about this, and he was asked about Marcus Rashford. It was one of those sell or buy things. And Rio said, basically, on Rashford, sell or buy, and he wouldn't commit, really. But what he actually said, I agree with. He said, I'd want to sit him down and find out why he's gone so cold. And based on that conversation, I'd make a decision. He said, I just basically want to know what's under the bonnet. And it's hard to know that publicly. And I think that's absolutely true about Rashford. You know, you can say sell him, you can say keep him. I'm saying I think he'll have a good season next year, but I don't know what's under the bonnet. So I agree with that. In relation to Mason Greenwood, he said, again, I'd like to have a chat with him and just find out, you know, where his head's at. And, you know, also I'd want to talk to, you know, club fan groups to see what they think as well. And that's where the problem really rises with Mason Greenwood. If we're being completely honest, this is not a footballing decision. We can all be mature. We can all say bring him back. We can all say sell him. But you're very, very, very immature if you ignore either side. Like, if you're saying bring him back, I don't care about the consequences, then you're never going to achieve anything in life because there will be consequences to every action. You can't just run through your life stubbornly ignoring things because you're going to run into trouble. Mason Greenwood, in my opinion, cannot come back to England. Whether it's Manchester United, Liverpool, or any other club. Not that Liverpool would want him, obviously not. But you know what I mean. Because when he comes back to England, we know what the crowds are like here. Whether it's homophobia, whether it's racism, whether it's sexism, it is abuse. And it does exist. So you're telling me if Mason Greenwood comes back and plays for Manchester United, he's not going to get abused at every away ground. He's not going to get abuse all over Twitter every single day and Instagram and everything else. And also, you're categorically telling me he's not going to get booed at Old Trafford. Because there are Man United fans that don't want him back. There are Man United employees that don't want him back. So when you face that, you have to take it into account. You can't just go, well, he's a good player, he's got to play. Because there will be a response to that. And also, as I've said before, with Mason Greenwood, he shouldn't put himself in that position. Mental health-wise, he shouldn't be putting himself in that position. The best thing he can do is continue to build his football career outside of England, and maybe in 2 or 3 years, he can come back. Because time will be a great healer. But I just think it's too soon. My opinion. Obviously, other people are going to disagree with that. But I don't know what they're disagreeing about, because we all know what world we live in, and we all know you can't press a button, let him come back, and no one gives him any shit. He will get loads of shit. It's a fact. It's a cold, harsh fact. So that is why I think he has to go. Any other players that you think should feature on there? Thomas Begley, welcome to the Members Club. Hi, Mark. Can you call my mate Tyler Henry a prat, says Shay. I've done that one as well. So that's how I think the colder meter looks at the moment in relation to players that are going to go. Do I expect any shocks to come into there? Well, we've already mentioned Pellistri. I've already mentioned Ahmad. I've already mentioned Lindelof could be in there as well. But beyond that, I mean, Scott McTominay, some people are mentioning him. I don't put him on there because I genuinely don't think he's going to go. Anthony would be a loan. It would not be a sale. So, you know, I'm talking about raising money here. This is not about loan deals. I think this is players are going to leave. Bobby says Casemiro's got to leave. We better move him quick because he's not going to the Copa America. Hannibal Mabry, yeah, but is he notorious enough to be on there? You know, is he significant enough to be on there? I mean, arguably, yes. We might get more money than we get for Donny at the end of the day. I don't know how you get more money than that. Jacob says, I really want David or Garassi, both proven goal scorers. Girona, Dovvik, and need competition up top. A player for Rasmus to thrive with, says Jacob. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Just on the striker situation, actually, there is a few topical bits to bring into you. Jonathan David is building momentum. Keep an eye on Jonathan David. That is building some momentum. And Xerxes, from what we're told, is a little bit overrated. Not the player. The story is being a little bit overrated. Trying to find out why that is, because I don't want to dismiss a player that a lot of you like, but the Xerxes story is apparently being a little bit inflated. It doesn't really make any sense why it's being inflated, so I wouldn't write your hopes off completely. It's not like Bologna can boost the price anymore because he has a release clause. So is it the agent trying to get a better deal wages-wise for him and his client? That could be an angle. Remember the 5 reasons Man United can be involved in a transfer? Bullshit. Reality. Agent using us for better contracts. Club using us to generate more interest. And I've forgotten the 5th one myself. Oh, yeah. Generating interest to get a better contract with the club they're already at. So it could be that this AC Milan deal, which is expected to happen, maybe the agent is trying to generate a bit of Premier League interest so they can go back to Milan and say you need to up the wage or something like that. But apparently it's a bit inflated that Man United and Arsenal are in for Xerxes because Milan have and are still the most likely outcome for him. Jonathan David, keep an eye on it. I mean, I really like Bayer, who we spoke about this morning, but that could just be a very low-level story, which we'll get plenty of. I wouldn't be getting too excited about that, but Jonathan David certainly could be something that is one to keep an eye on. Xerxes probably looking not that good. João Neves, a little bit coming out from Portugal, actually, from Record. They're basically saying that Benfica are in no rush to do any negotiations around João Neves. In fact, they would like to keep him. Their stance is very similar to Enzo Fernandez, where if people want to buy him, the release clause is there and they don't want to shift. So I just think that rules Man United out, doesn't it? I mean, also, I think he's going to have an amazing Euros. I can see him wearing light blue. I really can, which makes you throw up, doesn't it? But I can see this player that I think would be transformative for Manchester United ending up going to a team that's already miles ahead of us. But I don't see where we get the money from for João Neves. And Benfica are notorious for having these massive release clauses and demanding them. So I don't. They're not going to sit down and negotiate. He's playing in the Euros. I'm not saying it's another Frankie de Jong, but we could lock ourselves into something like that if we're not careful, whereby we think there's a chance and realistically it goes on forever and ever and ever and we end up with nothing. So we do have to be very, very careful around that one because it could get problematic. The Ligt that we brought in, Alanga's already gone. The great one says, is Alanga going? Mate, he's been playing for Nottingham Forest for the last season and we got money for him. So yeah, Alanga's already gone. Slow Sports News there. Yeah, he can't go on the colder meter because, in fact, if we want to talk about Alanga, he'd have to be on here coming back. He'd have to be on the hotter meter. He can't go on the colder meter. He's stone cold Steve Austin. He's already gone. Freezing cold. So cold he's frozen. Alanga's gone. I think that on De Ligt, which we spoke a little bit about at the end of the show this morning, Pletty Germany, saying Man United are interested in Ligt. I don't see it, to be honest with you. I have no insider information on this. We were linked to Ligt years ago, way before Ten Hag or even Ollie, I think. I think it was, God knows who the manager was. But Bayern Munich wages, salary will be a lot of money. And I'd be very surprised if we went for Ligt, because I feel that we have done so much work around the centre-back that goes back to last summer. Like Todibo was on our list last summer. Obviously, we didn't get Kim Min-jae, but we were looking for a top-class centre-back last summer. So we've been looking at this for 18 months, this position, which is why I think we might go for 2, because we've done so much work on the centre-back situation, and we should have got one in last summer and probably another one this summer, but we didn't. We had to get Johnny Evans because Murta messed it up, or Arnold or whoever. So I don't think, for all the work that United have done on centre-backs, they're suddenly going to go, oh, Bayern Munich want to sell Ligt, let's change. I don't think Ineos will allow it. And I think this is exactly the sort of... I think Ligt, actually, write it off. Forget about it. We're going to go and sign him now. But I think Ligt, this next couple of sentences will evidence exactly what we're going to do with transfers from now on, Ten Hag's role and Ineos's role, and why it will work. Because this is what should have happened with Onana and De Gea last year. When Ten Hag said, let De Gea go, I want Onana, nothing wrong with Onana. He's a ball-playing goalkeeper and De Gea isn't. But somebody should have said, i.e. the Ineos board with Blanc and Barada and Brailsford, they should have said, Eric, we know you want a ball-playing goalkeeper, but David De Gea has just won the Golden Glove and is still a very good goalkeeper, and you want us to let him go for nothing and spend £50 million on a goalkeeper that, you know, may or may not work. It's a no for now. We'll look at that again in 12 months, but it's a no for now. It's not a priority, right? So that's what should have happened there. Doesn't make Ten Hag a bad manager. Klopp's been told no before. I'm sure Pep's been told no before. And I'm sure Arteta's been told no before. This summer, this won't happen, but let's imagine this scenario. Man United have got lined up 4 or 5 centre-backs that they're going to move on. Ten Hag goes, I've just been told that De Ligt's available. I'd like him. Last summer, we probably swerved towards De Ligt because that's how it was working. This summer, I think Barada, etc. would go, Eric, we've done the work on the centre-backs with you. We're happy that these are the centre-backs we want to go for. You're telling us that you want to go for De Ligt. Yeah. Well, it's not happening, Eric. We've had the chat. We've done the background. We're happy with these targets. We've spoken with you. You were happy with these targets. These are what we're going for. And even if Ten Hag says, no, I didn't know De Ligt was available. That's the player I want. I think Ineos would say, look, no, this is how it's going to work from now on. We've worked with you on the targets, and these are the ones we're going to go with. We're not swerving away on a risk because you suddenly want that. Look, Eric, if it was bloody, I don't know, if it's Frankie de Jong, maybe we look at it. You know, if it's Erling Haaland, maybe we look at it. But we're not swerving away for that. And that is exactly what we want to happen with the transfer way now. And I think that would explain it perfectly. Ten Hag will not have the ability to shift targets on a whim and say, this is happening. I think he has an input. I think he has a big input. But the board is there to say yay or nay. And that's what should happen. No manager should have total control of transfers. And people who say you're a hypocrite, no. We were saying this last summer. He shouldn't have been allowed to do the Onana thing. It was a year too soon, and it cost a lot of money. It doesn't make Onana a bad player. It doesn't make Ten Hag's judgment bad. But he needs that structure above him. He's got to have a say, and he's got to have, you know, a vote, so to speak. But the casting vote must be from the collective board above, because when you swerve away from a plan, it's risky. And I don't see De Ligt being part of that plan at all. I really don't. I like him as a player, and I might be wrong, but I don't think we will. Dylan says, call it fire exit because it's a fire sale, and if you can't handle the heat, get out. Nick James says, Mabry, Fernandes, Lindelof, Pellistri, Eriksen equals 25 million. Casemiro, Greenwood, Sancho equals 100 million. Sign Amrabat, Todibo, Branthwaite, Neves and Striker equals 175 million, says Nick. Well, I sort of want to do that at some point, but I tell you what, it's difficult to create the place for Ten Hag. That's why MG needs to go, says Akil. I really want David. Oh, I've done that one. Look, it's really hard to put values on these players, even the players on here. I mean, how much would you value if we sold all those 7 players? You're going to get crazy prices. I would say Greenwood, 30 million cash will come in. There'll be add-ons. I would say Sancho, I just don't see it. I don't see it. I see a loan deal. I mean, the wages are criminal. That's the problem. It's the wages. I'm sure I would take Jadon Sancho if I was Spurs for 35 million, 40 million. Of course I would. He's under 25. But the wages are going to kill it. They're going to kill it dead. It's not Ten Hag's fault. It's not Ineos's fault. It's going to kill it absolutely dead. Like, I just don't see how we sell Sancho. Yeah, there's 35, there's 40 million quid there. Obviously, but the 300k a week is going to absolutely kill that deal. And also, his contract has still got 2 years left to run on it, 2026. So it's 2 years on 300 grand a week. It's a lot of money. I don't know what the value of Sancho is, because if you want to sell him, you're probably talking 20 million. And that's not going to help you in FFP, because we paid 75 for him, didn't we? So, yeah. Van der Beek, 5 million if you're lucky. Eriksen, 5 million if you're lucky. Casemiro, well, we paid 60 for him 2 years ago. So if we don't get 40, it's not even going to help FFP. Wan-Bissaka, yeah, definitely 25 million there. Definitely 25 million. And Maguire, 25 million. So I would say, from them 7 players, if you can raise 100 million, you've done well. 25 for Wan-Bissaka, 25 for Maguire, 30 for Greenwood, that's 80. Eriksen, maybe 5, 85. Van der Beek, maybe 5, 90. Sancho, I don't see as getting anything. Casemiro, all right, that's going to push you past 100, but I don't think we can use any of the Casemiro money against FFP because of amortization. I might be wrong on that. So I think you raise about 100 million there. And if we can raise 100 million pounds to add to the 75 we've got 175 million pound budget. Lachlan, welcome to the members club. A few people mentioning Memphis Depay. Have we been linked to him? Fabrizio says De Zerbi's off to Marseille. I can't see anything about Memphis. Look, my big problem with Memphis is that he's been here before. The media will not let that lie. There'll be not a lot of noise behind him. He's a very different player to what he was back then. But I just don't know. Oh, I don't know what's happened there. It's all right. I think it's working. I thought Potter was going to Marseille, says Sean. I think Graham Potter's going to Leicester. De Zerbi's gone to Marseille. Pochettino and Tuchel are going to the Maldives on holiday because they're jobless. And who else did we get? Tom's Frank staying at Brentford. So, yeah. Dortmund are looking for a manager, says Robbo. Their manager has resigned. I don't know why that's happened. Why is that Dortmund manager resigned? He's done quite well. That's probably not good for Sancho, is it? I mean, Dortmund were linked to Greenwood. My fear is we don't sell and let contracts run out, says Nick. Look, I'm not here to... Just because Ineos have kept Ten Hag and I want to support them now and give them a chance, I'm not here to, defend them on everything. But I think when you're talking about selling players, I put myself into that situation and I'm inheriting a very, very difficult job from very incompetent people. I just can't walk in and raise £200 million by selling players. I mean, Jadon Sancho is the quintessential player, really. He's got to go. He's a decent player. But he's locked in at Man United because nobody will pay those wages. Nobody's going to pay those wages. So I don't know how we get rid of Mason Greenwood. I really, really don't. Really, I wouldn't be surprised if we're talking about Jadon Sancho. I would not be surprised if this time next year we're talking about Jadon Sancho with 1 year left on his contract, earning £300,000 a week, running his contract down, going on loan again. He is the sort of player that, it's all about. Apparently he fell out with the manager. Matt Hummels is the reason as well at Dortmund, says Hampton. Okay. If you're interested, by the way, in 20 minutes, I'm live on my channel doing an EAFC England Euros career. People will say you've already done it before. I did it last week and the squad wasn't updated. They've updated the squad today, so it's got Mainu in it. It hasn't got Rashford in it. It has got Luke Shaw in it. It's got Cole Palmer in it. So it's a proper England Euros EAFC career mode, which I'm about to do at 3 o'clock. So you can join me for that in 20 minutes if you want to. I'm back with you at 8 o'clock. If you disagree, well, look, smash a like on the video for the colder meter for a start. What an addition to the summer transfer window. Things are heating up or going cold here. It will change, of course, but let us know in the chats what your thoughts are on the players that we've got as the 7 most likely to go at the moment, and what your thoughts are in relation to how much money Man United can actually spend this summer, because that's something I want to revisit at 8 o'clock. What is our budget realistically, and what can you get out of that budget? A lot of people are saying top 175 million. What can you get for 175 million? Not a lot. If you buy one player for 60 million, you're in big trouble. I mean, you can't get Branthwaite and Elise for 170 million. You can't do it. You just can't, because you're not going to get anything else. So, yeah, how do we do it? We'll be discussing that at 8 o'clock, amongst a lot of other things. Make sure you smash a like and subscribe. I'll see you on my career mode if you're going to join me. I've just spat on my lip a little bit. And that bombshell, I will speak to you in 20 minutes. Take care.